Now, a Palestinian student activist arrested in the US for leading protests against the war on Gaza has been released from jail. Mohsen Mahdawi is a legal resident of America. He was arrested in Vermont during what he thought was an interview to obtain his full citizenship. Kimberly Halkett reports from Washington, D.C.
In his ruling, the judge in Vermont said that Mohsen Mahdawi is not a threat to public safety. He's also not a flight risk, and as a result, he needs to be freed on bail pending further proceedings. Now, what we know is that he was arrested by immigration officials on April 14th when he thought he was attending a U.S. citizenship interview. He's been a legal resident or green card holder for about 10 years. Now, the government is arguing that even though he's a legal resident, he isn't a U.S. citizen, and therefore he is not entitled to the same rights and protections as a U.S. citizen, namely the right to free speech as part of his pro-Palestinian demonstrations that took place on the part, or rather on the Columbia University campus.
What is happening now is a light of hope. Justice Crawford, who ruled to release me against all of the heinous accusations, horrible attacks, chills of speech, First Amendment violations. He has made a very brave decision to let me out, and this is what justice is.
The policy of stripping someone of their legal residence status isn't new in the United States, but typically it's done when they've committed a crime, not for freedom of speech activities in the case of Mr. Mahdawi. But again, the government is arguing that he is not entitled to First Amendment rights or freedom of speech because he's not a U.S. citizen. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says that his pro-Palestinian demonstration activities on the Columbia University campus are anti-Semitic and undermine U.S. foreign policy interests, namely the Middle East peace process. Now, Mr. Mahdawi denies all of this vehemently. Still, the Trump administration is using the same tactics against Mr. Mahdawi that they are also using against Mahmoud Khalil, a fellow protester who is currently still in federal detention in a jail in the U.S. state of Louisiana. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, Jamil Spitan is a doctoral student at Columbia University and a friend of Mr. Mahdawi. He says the activist was in good spirits throughout his detention.
He believed that justice would prevail in his case and that he would be released, and he has been to date. This judgment really sets a positive precedent for the Palestine movement in the U.S., but also for free speech at large in this country. Mohsen has been detained in order to silence his advocacy on behalf of Palestinians and against the genocide in Gaza, which, as we know, has been funded and abetted by the United States. But also, this goes way beyond Palestine because the Trump administration is using Palestine as a wedge issue to silence all forms of dissent in the United States against its draconian agenda. They want to chill all forms of political speech, which the administration disapproves of, all while continuing to arm and fund Israel as it commits genocide against the Palestinian people of Gaza.